Good morning students, welcome to online class. Hope you are keeping well by the blessings of God. So students, once again I am with you and today I am going to teach you social science, geography segment, chapter number 1, resource and development. I have already started this chapter and in my previous lecture I taught you about the resources and the kinds of resources, biotic, abiotic, renewable and non-renewable resources. Already I have discussed, you have noted down the questions also and I am sure that you had followed my lecture. So today guys, the continuation of this chapter, the heading is development of resource. You know very well that resource, it is exhaustible, especially the non-renewable resource, it is exhausted as fuel fossil and some metals are also there. So non-renewable resource, once it is exhausted, that means that is one time usage, we are not going to get it again. But in the case of renewable resource, that is solar energy, wind, water, those are the renewable resources that we can recycle it, we can use it for the second time and so on. So while it is exhausted, now the renewable resource is also under pressure. Why? Because of the greed of humans. That means we are the human beings, we are not considering that what is going to be happened in near future, or we are not preserving or trying to preserve the resource for our next generation. So today's chapter, that is the development of resource, how we can develop it, what are the strategies for the development of resources. So first point, that is exhaustible for the greed of humans, and the second point is that unequal resources distribution. Students, in my previous lecture already I told you that resource, those are whatever the resources are, those are scattered everywhere, all over the world. Any resource, it is not centralized, or all the resources are not centralized in one place. So it is very difficult to detect the existence of that particular resource under the surface. So that is why when it is detected, to detect and to extract it and to utilize it, then for implementation, human resource is mandatory. Then human resource, that is compulsory. Without human resource, it is not possible. So next point is that unequal resource distribution, the scattered resources are there. So it is not distributed, it is not centralized. Apart from that, that accumulation of resources in the hands of few. So it should not happen that suppose a group, they are working to extract or utilize that resource. That means the other people, they are deprived of. They are only this category, only few, handful of people, they are utilizing to fulfill their greed, and they are implementing, extracting, and that means the entire capital in their hands. So the society only will be divided into two segments or two parts. One is poor and other is rich. It should not be happen, especially in a democratic state. So this is one of the major factors. It should not be centralized and should not be accumulated or in the hands of few. And the last, that is one of the major problems nowadays entire world is facing, that is global ecological crisis and the ozone depletion. You know very well regarding the ozone hole in ozone layer. So ozone depletion or exhaustion takes place if over usage of resource takes place or it happens. So this is the factors, and under the heading that development of resource, how we can develop, how we can sustain the resource. We have to think about our next generation. Resource should not be exhausted, so that the next generation or within short span of time there will be nothing. That means natural resource that will be nil. So mankind will face a huge crisis as consequence. So one point is sustainable resource. What is sustainable resource and what is sustainable development? Guys, if you have the copy, you please open your copy. You note down the heading sustainable development. Heading, you write sustainable development. Now let us discuss that what is sustainable development. Guys, you can write development should take place without damaging the environment and development in the present should not compromise with needs of the future generation. That is called the sustainable development. Just now I told you that we have to think about the future generation. There should be no compromise needs of the future generation. We have to sustain it. We have to preserve for our future generation. We should not be selfish, or the resources, whatever the resources, it should not be accumulated in the handful people, in the hands of few people. So this is, you can say, the definition of sustainable development. So the concept, what is the concept of sustainable development? The concept of sustainable development was first, because it is the recent factor that people have started thinking about the danger or the exhaustibility of resources. After people started thinking about the exhaustibility of the resources, then this sustainable development was first formulated in 1992. It was first formulated in 1992 in United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. You can note down, in 1992, at first, FIRST first, United, capital U, Nation, capital N, Conference, capital C, on Environment, capital E, and Development, capital D. in 1992, recently in 1992. So, how the development can be sustained or resource can be renewable, can be preserved, those are the major factors. Otherwise, in near future, the people of the world will have to face an intense crisis in the field of natural resources. Now let us come to the next point, that resource planning in India. What our country, India, is planning regarding this. So there are some factors that our country, our nation has to think, and already they have started implementation in this regard. So, identification of quantification and available resources. Identification of quantification of the available resources. That means, what is the quantity of resource? We have to know about the quantity of resource so that our country can use or can extract that resource accordingly. That much we should, in my previous lecture I already told you, I taught you that much quantity, whatever we require, that much quantity we should use, not surplus. Otherwise one day it will be totally exhausted. So already I have discussed this. So according to this concept, there are some points to think, and already our country has been executed this factor and executed this work and this process. So the first point is, suppose as example, that quantification. So quantification of availability. So in that basis, as an example, states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, these states have ample of minerals. Minerals are available, natural resources are available. But what is not available, that is the technology and institutional support. Lack technological support and institutional support. And the second point is, Arunachal Pradesh, it is enriched with water, ample of water in Arunachal Pradesh, but lacks infrastructure. And third point is, Rajasthan is enriched with wind and solar energy. You know very well, Rajasthan is enriched with wind and solar energy, but lack of water. Rajasthan, it is desert, and third desert, one of the biggest and largest deserts in India. And apart from that, it is a different, absolutely different factor.